starting off with Bishop here. Bishop is quite good as a, you know, in like the game as a whole right now. She's really, really strong. She gets a lot of value with just existing, right? Because she can dash around so much. She has 3 dashes. You put a hover wings on her, she gets that way to like dash up into the skybox. It's super busted. But having said that, she gets a lot of extra value from the AoE value that she has, in terms of punching people in, punching people into each other, punching wisps into people, etc., and hitting people with like the explosive rockets, the rockets exploding on each other, or all that kind of stuff, right? So there's a lot of value that she gets that isn't as good in the actual duos mode, because there's not as many enemies, right? And so Bishop, when she's like super S tier right now, or she's like S tier right now, she's still strong, like don't get me wrong, but I think I'd put her down more in like A tier. She's A tier, she's strong, she has a lot of mobility, you can escape to res your team, you can secure a res pretty reliably with your punch, like knocking people away from you, stuff like that. But she doesn't quite have the same value she does in the solos. She can't secure kills quite as well either, which I think is a pretty important thing in solo, right? So characters that have some sort of team-oriented capability, they aren't going to do as well. All right, Brall. Brall is just really busted in duos, I think. I'm probably going to put him in S tier. Brall just gets like so much miscellaneous value from all the stuff that he can do, right? He's really, really good in 1v1s. And the best way to beat him is to focus him down as a group. But when you're playing in duos, there aren't groups to focus him down with, right? So essentially, you get to sit there and jump on enemies, and they have to be like a lot better than they should have to be able to stop you from just beating the shit out of them, basically. And so Brall's like definitely pretty S tier, right? He has the ability to completely stop the enemy's wisp, which is going to be a big deal in like in solos, with the way that like the damage isn't as high, so it's a lot easier to secure, or in a squad, sorry, where the damage is a lot higher, so it's a lot easier to secure like wisp reses on your ally, just because you can sit there and you can like, you know, poke a lot better, right? And like I said, less damage, so people can't kill you as fast, so you can take a little bit more damage and be on the actual wisp longer. So Brall S tier. Ghost is still strong. He's really, really good in the in squads. He's super giga good. But again, he kind of loses some of his value because a lot of it's AoE, right? He gets more resets on his laser for shooting through people, and so you have less of those to target. You have like less people to stun with your nade, and he gets a lot of value out of that, right? It's a lot of value out of hitting the stuns and like knocking it into walls and then dazing people and then bullying the crap out of them afterwards. And he's a lot stronger when you can just sit there and fish. While he's like S tier in squads, I think I'd put him at like a high B tier for duos. I don't know if I put him that far, because he has a lot of damage output still, and you kind of have to front to back like inherently because of this. So I guess I put him in A tier also. Jhin. Same thing with Brall. He's very similar to Brall. He is really good in 1v1s. He just does too much damage. He just does too much bullshit. He will just poop on you. You know, you get to do whatever you want. And so the way that you beat him is you take your group and then you throw your group at him, right? So he engages on you. You all like go brawl, and you blow him up really quick. But there's only 2 people to do that in duos. So Jhin is very similar. Jin's getting really high tier too, just because of his capability to 1v1, and when there's fewer teams, there's going to be a lot of players, there's going to be a lot of 1v1s occurring, right? So that's why he's like so strong like that, right? Yeah. Next, Joule, you know, you could maybe argue she has some of the problems that Ghosts and Bishop do, with the whole like, you know, AoE, not getting as much value out of it, because she does have some AoE stuff too. But she's also just really, really good in 1v1. Like, super good in 1v1s. And a lot of, like, duos is going to... Like, a thing that's going to be really important in duos is that when you pull up on people, right? Like, you're playing a lot more to, like, just pull up on someone and blow them up, right? And with Brall, or like with a character like Joule, you can just go do that really easily. In the squad mode, it's a lot harder to like do it sometimes because there's 3 people to peel them right afterwards. And so if you surprise someone, you have to have good timing with your teammates, right? Because your surprise is a 1v4 surprise, and that's 40 or 25% value relative to them. But in duos, it's 50%. So, or, you know, 100% because you're catching someone completely by themselves. So I think Joule is S tier. I think Joule might be one of the best characters in duos. Because the thing about duos is in duos, you can take the pace of the game as you want it, right? And Joule's really good at taking the pace when she wants it. She wants to slow things down. She wants to poke. Oh, guess what? You're full stacked. I blow you up, right? Double dash through you. You dash into you. Pop you if I don't kill you. Dash out. Damage you. It's just, yeah, like, hello. All right. Void. Void is pretty good, I think, in duos. I'm not going to say he's insane. And he's a pretty higher skill cap character because of his lack of mobility, right? But you're going to get, like, you have this capability to just blow someone the hell up and then laugh at them, right? And so he's like pretty solid low-key. Like I said, skill requirement, right? He is skill requirement, but you know, I'm gonna put him at like maybe like a high B. I don't think he's super busted. I don't think he's as good as some of his other characters, but because he's just not as like reliable with his lack of mobility and stuff like that. So, you know, that's like something to kind of consider. And I said it's kind of like, it's like a little bit of a skill-based thing. But, you know, you'll get a lot of value out of playing him still. And it's like, if you're good at him, boom, right? If you're bad at him, eh. So probably high B is where I put him for now. Yep. Same thing, because like his ult, as much as it's like an AoE thing, so he has some of these issues, it's still a single target destroyer and you just blow them up. So yeah. Having said that, Celeste is just not that good in duos. Not nearly as good. She gets a lot of value out of team, like with her team. She gets a lot of value like pushing enemies out of spaces, slowing enemies for her team. Like any of the characters that like play a lot towards supporting allies, they're not going to get as much value, right? And Celeste is one of those. Celeste will definitely struggle because she doesn't have as much, doesn't like have the teammates to help her, right? And on top of that, right, because of the way that the fights work, like a Celeste ultimates where she uses them to peel herself are useful for peel, right, to save herself. They're not useful for what they're going to do afterwards usually. Very rarely do the enemies lack the movement to be able to like just not dodge these, like not escape afterwards, right? And so in duos, a lot more of that's going to happen. You'll be ulting to save yourself. If you jump into the enemy team and ult them, it's not going to do anything. And you're ulting to save yourself, right? Or ulting on top of your teammates to peel them, or your teammate to peel them, which is something you can do, but it's just not as viable, right? And you don't have teammates to like slow them or stun them up a little bit, or do something that's going to help you, or like break their shields or whatever earlier on that's going to help you. But I think Celeste is probably one of the worst characters. Maybe not horror, like the worst, because she has good mobility, so she can still go res and secure, you know, secure stuff like that. So, you know, not the absolute worst. Right. So, with Myth is a very, very powerful character in squads. She's S tier. I think she's one of the best characters. I would like, especially for high tier play. I think she's just giga stupid dumb. But she's also just really strong in general. She has a lot of escapability. She has solid damage from range, pretty high rate damage with her ultimate, and she has good knockback. But her best thing that she has is her ranged like arrows, right? That control space. And so it's the same thing, right? Where like, yeah, you know, isn't getting quite as much value with her AoE, but her capability to poke people from range, to distance herself from enemies, to you know, do all the stuff that she needs to in regards to that is just really, really, really strong. So, she's S tier. Like, I think she's maybe not as good as Joule, but I think she's like really strong, right? Yep, I would say she's S tier. A little bit more skill dependent, right, than a character like Brall or Jen. So if you're not as good, maybe she's probably on a B. But if you're popping off, then she's S tier. Like I said, hold people at range. You can escape to go res really easily. Yep, she does everything you want her to. Shiv. So, like, again, you know, Shiv is struggling from the same issue that these guys are of having less AoE damage. But, so, Shiv has some of these problems that Bishop and Ghost do of lacking that AoE. Lacking the opportunity to do as much AoE value. But she's still just really, really, really good at taking 1v1s. And, you know, just securing a lot of value. There is a little bit of a problem with her where she, like, doesn't have... Like, because, you know, in the group game, in the squads, when she, like, TPs into the enemy and ults on them and blows them up and stuff like that, she gets her team a bunch of value afterwards, right? Like, her team immediately can just go up and follow up on it. And if enemies just jump away from her, then they're going to get punished, right? By the 3 other people chasing down. But with the duos, there's only one person to do that. So you really have to be a lot more careful with how you use your ultimate and how you space yourself and stuff like that. So it's harder to just TP straight onto it because they don't have as much to deal with, right? They don't have as much to like look at, so they're only looking at you when you're taking fights. So she's not S tier, right? Because of that. I still would say she's A tier, just because of the fact that like you get on top of an enemy, you pop your ultimate, and you just start clicking on them, and like they will just die, you know. So yeah. All right, Shrike. Well, what would I say about Shrike? I think Shrike in general is kind of a bait character. Like he feels really powerful at lower ranks, and then you play it longer, and you kind of get to understand why she's not the absolute strongest in the game. But in terms of duos, I think she's not like she's better than squads. She, you know, it's difficult to say though, because she gets value in game in fights where the fights start going longer and the enemy team gets distracted, right? Like there's other things bullying her and messing with her and like doing all this garbage to her, and then she needs to like walk in and just sit there and click on them from the side, right? She gets a lot of value doing stuff like that. But that's not as much of an opportunity in the duos. But she also doesn't have the opportunity to be flanked by as many angles. And so she's really good when she doesn't have to have people standing on the sides of her. And it's hard for her to hold space against enemies. So she's getting buffed and debuffed because of that. But I would honestly put her like low B tier, I think. She does a lot of damage, she'll click on people. But she won't provide... She doesn't have the capability to like get that time to just sit there and click as much. And it's kind of like also relevant to like these characters being stronger. Like these characters, Brall and Jen, and Shiv will just get down Shrike's throat. All right, Hudson. What do I say about Hudson? Hudson here, I think he'll be pretty strong. He has this situation where he gets a lot of value against a lot of characters. Like there's a lot of characters in the game that don't have a way to beat him in a matchup, right? Let's see, like, you know, characters like Joule can stack him pretty easily and burn him because he's so stationary. Myth can kind of outrange him. She still isn't that great against him. Brall is good against him in squads, but not that as good in like this. Well, Brall can just like dash around him. It's a little bit skill dependent, but yeah. I don't think a stalker really has a way to like deal with him that well. Jin has a way to deal with him. But characters like Bishop also struggle damage. They have a hard time. A character like Ghost can beat him and outrange him. Shrike or Shiv has enough damage and we'll just jump on top of them and start blowing them up, right? But then characters like Void just have no real solution. Shrike, I think, even struggles because she isn't getting outranging them very well. Celeste really struggles. Felix struggles if you were playing like the Hudson decently. Yeah. Kingpin is one of Hudson's harder matchups, but if you dodge like the hook and you space yourself, like there's ways to win. It's like roughly even. Oath has a very hard time against Hudson. You don't know, like you can't deal with it that well. It works a lot better in like team environments too, just because Hudson like an Oath can like, you know, facilitate, like buy his team time to deal with them, but a lot of the times you don't have the damage to actually like frag him, and like, yeah, it's just a rough. Zeph has no real solution. Bunny definitely doesn't have a solution, right? And so there's a lot of characters that Hudson either has like a good matchup against, like he doesn't lose to that many of them, and he has a good matchup against a lot of characters, and he has winnable matchups against other ones, because you know you can do things like place here. Like I'm gonna make a Hudson guide pretty soon for you guys, and explain to you guys like how you should play him. But yeah, there is a lot of value to be obtained, and you can do well against certain characters. So just by like controlling the side angles, like placing down like your barbed wires like on the side of you, so that people kind of have to walk directly into you and they can't really flank you. And if they do flank you, you can like walk on the opposite side and then like burn them. Because the only way Hudson really loses is if he gets surrounded, or he gets like, he's like, people are walking around him as he's trying to turn and he can't, right? All right. So Hudson, I'm gonna put him in high B tier. He's pretty similar to Void still, I'd say. Felix. Felix has a lot of what Brall and Jhin do. Like I said, he loses the value on AoE value, but he has this like, I will just stat check you that Brall and Jhin have. But it can also be a struggle for him to get on top of people in the... It can also be a real struggle to get on top of people in the duos mode if they see you, right? In squads, it's easier because like your squad can, you know, they aren't able to tell exactly where your full team is. Whereas in like duos, it's like you walk up and you see like 2 people there and you're like, oh, there's 2 people here. There's nobody else. Oh, it's only 1 person. Where's the other guy, right? And they start looking around a little bit. So Felix, I honestly would say, I don't know. I could be a little bit off on this one, but I think Felix is in the range of like maybe a high B tier. I think he's a high B tier. All right, Kingpin. Kingpin's gonna vary a lot based on your skill, to be completely honest with you. Kingpin's biggest weakness is his lack of mobility, and so you'll struggle a little bit with that. So yeah. And so with Kingpin's lack of this mobility, he can't survive as well. He can't like outpace people when they want to push into him. Like he might struggle against a Felix, like ulting on top of him and him getting slowed as he's trying to dash away. But a lot of it's really just like him like not being able to dash away and then you know, survive against something that pushes onto him. Right. And so there's that, but like if you just hit your slams and stuff like that, you'll blow people up, right? Kingpin has very good 1v1 matchups where he slams the shit out of people, and he has very bad 1v1 matchups. Like he can beat most things in the game, right? Except for something like Brall. So, you know. And so with, you know, like I said, it's just, he is not going to help you be able to escape and be able to res your teammates. Because like as soon as you lose one, it's like, I need to GTFO most of the time frame, right? And you can't do that very well. So like, honestly, I don't think Kingpin's very good in duos. I would say he's like, if you're good at him, he can get up towards like B. If you're bad at him, he's D. So I'd say C. Right. So, with the support characters, we get into some interesting territory. Although I don't think Oath's a support character because I'm an Overwatch player and I say tank, but you know, whatever. The Oath has like, he has some of these issues where he wants to be able to support a team and facilitate them and like provide a lot of indirect value to his team. But he also just happens to have this shield where like he can just win 1v1s, right? So he's like, oh, I'm Reinhardt. But while he's Reinhardt, he's also like whatever the heck else that he can just like take these 1v1s a lot of the time, and shield up, burn people, constantly heal his shield, and just burn the crap out of people. So when it comes to duos, right, you're losing some areas, but you're gaining other ones. But honestly, like, I think he's just really good. The ability to like anytime someone on your team dies, like your ally dies, you can basically guarantee that you're gonna be able to res them if you've played like decently, right? You should be able to just like play really slow, babysit like a lot of characters in the game, right? Babysit like a Myth, Hudson, Ghost, maybe a Void. Now it's questionable. Babysit them and just heal them up constantly and play really slow and just poke with your shield or poke with your dagger. Sorry, your hammer. Gosh. And then when people finally get on top of you or whatever, you just ult them. You just ult them off. So I think he's S tier also. I think he's super good. Duos. Zeph. Zeph, I think, is not as strong, like nearly as strong as he is in squads. Well, it's you know, actually, I kind of take that back. Any of the healing characters are going to get a lot of value in squads. Maybe not as Elluna as much. Or, you know, spoilers. But Zeph does a lot of solo pocketing, right? And so you can just pick your ally, and in duos, you're healing 100% of your ally team. Or, you know, 50% of your team every time you're healing somebody. Whereas in squads, you're only healing 25%. Right? So you're inherently getting more value out of that. And just pocket the ever-loving shit out of an ally. But you have like really good peel utility that are easy to hit, so still easy to hit against solos with your ultimate. Your nade isn't nearly as good, so you need to like maybe, you know, use it for more defensive purposes. You're not going to get like a double nade and kill people with it like you can in squads. But he's still really strong. I think he's honestly like A tier. I don't think he's as good as Oath. I think Oath's healing still kind of outmatches Oath or Zeph's. Maybe he doesn't quite outmatch it. It does if you're running the build I do. So if you want to know how to do the right build, go to my Oath guide build. Where you're running like a tank. You're running a Guardian's Respite for the cooldown reduction, and you're getting like extra healing. You're doing extra, like tripling your heal, so you have it on like a 6-second cooldown. Oh well. All right, Bunny Rabbit. Bunny Rabbit. The way that I look at Rabbit is she has like one of the better like stuns in the game, like just ranged I will stun you in the game. You're right, you know? Because she can fish with her her little whatever the hell it's called, right? That thing. And so that's powerful, and they buffed her damage, right? Her healing is not impressive, and you're not gonna get a lot of utility out of her like ally res. You can, it's just a lot of the time that like enemies are gonna frag someone on your team. Well, it's like this, right? If you play with a ranged character, like Elluna's actually probably pretty good. I don't think he's as good as Oath or Zeph, but I think she's still quite good. Because of the fishing capability, because of that, right? And if you're playing with like a character like Felix, you're not gonna get a lot of value. If you're playing a character like one of these ranged characters with a stun, you're gonna get a lot of value because you can just sit there, sit back, throw your snare at people, you catch them, bam, right, blow them up, and then you have like your Myth or your Joule, right? Your Joule even better, that just drops their lightning strike right on top of them, boom. Or you have like your Bishop that can jump into them, punch them in the face, you know. So she's not quite as good, but I think I'd put her in A tier also. So, yeah. Let's go.